Hello and welcome. My name is Joshua M. Today I'd like to talk a little bit about my weight loss journey, specifically my trials and errors throughout my weight loss journey and where I started, what I am doing today, and how I got to where I am so far, which is about 68 pounds lost in a year and a half. So when I first began back in January of 2018, I had no idea where to go, no idea where to start. It was a completely new world to me. I had never done anything in weight loss. I had always been extremely, eat whatever I want and no exercise, and that's how I got to be 313 pounds. But when I first started back then, I was looking around and I discovered what many people know today as the ketogenic diet. And when I first heard about it, I was like, what is this? Give up carbs, give up all of these amazing foods that I've been eating my whole life that, I can't do that. That's absolutely ridiculous. But it took me a few months to learn how to do it, to learn where to go and how to eat, how to prepare food, and all of that. And then a little ways down the road, I discovered another form of dieting called alternate day fasting. And alternate day fasting I'm using today predominantly as my main method of weight loss. I still do keto, but not as strictly as I used to when I was first starting, and I'll get into that in a little bit. So I'd like to start by talking about keto. So what is it? What is keto? In essence, keto is a diet where you restrict foods. Specifically, you restrict carbohydrates. You don't want to eat carbohydrates. And the other things that you want to eat on a ketogenic diet would be a low to moderate level of protein, very high amount of vegetables, and then a lot of people will say you want to eat high fat. I changed it up and went more moderate to low fat, but I started as high fat with keto as well. So how did I start using that? How did I start losing weight on that? Why does that work? Or why did that work for me? Because I lost about 40 pounds just doing keto. No fasting, no exercising, nothing. Just keto from switching from a very high carb standard American diet. And the reason keto works is because it helps lower your insulin resistance. Insulin is a hormone that the body produces that will regulate your blood sugar levels and also assist in the storage of fat. We need it, it's very important, it's a great hormone to have, but when you eat high carbs all the time, you can end up what's known as insulin resistance, and that can lead to diabetes and a number of other health issues. But in general, what I started doing with keto is I cut out as many carbs as I could. I went very strict keto. I only allowed myself to eat up to about 20 grams of carbohydrates a day. And that worked. I mean, it definitely helped. I noticed some pretty extreme weight loss off the bat because I lost a lot of water weight due to lowering my carbohydrates, and I experienced some pretty good weight loss. But eventually I started to plateau, and I started to hit a point where that weight loss slowed to, half a pound a week. And I was becoming dissatisfied with those results, and that led to, some aggravation, some cheat days. I fell off the wagon a little bit, and then I had to get back on. I gained weight back and lost. And for me, it was a great diet because it works, but it wasn't sustainable for the long term. And that's specifically because, as I discovered more, I was eating too much fat. Fat is a very high, dense calorie food. And when you first start keto, you need to eat fat because that's what keeps you satiated. It's what keeps you from getting hungry between meals. But I went too far. I started thinking that, hey, I can eat fat all the time. I never need to worry about what I'm eating. I don't need to track my food. So I'm just gonna eat all this fat. And I ended up getting to the point where I was actually gaining weight again on keto. And it was really discouraging, and it didn't work out for me very well. So I made a few changes. I decided to shift my diet a little bit. I lowered my fat intake, which what ended up happening is when you lower your fat intake, you lower your caloric intake. And eventually, you don't want to get to the point where your body's metabolism starts slowing down, but you do want to be at a point where your body is not storing excess calories as fat, right? So that's why I said at the beginning with keto that I do kind of moderate to low fat now if I'm gonna eat keto. And even today, I try to do keto, but I don't always do keto. Sometimes I alternate between keto and carbs, depending on the week, depending on life, depending on friends and family and what people are having. If somebody's having a birthday party, it's not like I'm not going to participate in that. It's a lifestyle, but it's also not something that I'm so rigid about that I'm not gonna enjoy life along the way as well. So that leads me into alternate day fasting, which I discovered alternate day fasting about 6 months after I started my dieting process, about halfway through 2018. And when I first discovered it, I was like, this is crazy. Go a whole day without food. Like on keto, I had just started doing 16-8 fast, like intermittent fasting. So I wouldn't eat for 16 hours a day and then I'd have an 8-hour eating window, right? But with alternate day fasting, you go 36 to 48 hours without food. And to me, that was insane. Like I'd never thought I could survive 4 hours, let alone, a whole day by the time I discovered it. And so I was really hesitant, but eventually I built up enough courage and I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna do it. I'm gonna try it and I'm gonna do it for a month and see what happens. And so I started doing it for a month, but I did it a little bit wrong. I didn't do it quite right. And what I mean by that is I went too extreme. The first couple days after I got into it, like after the first week, I didn't notice like extreme results like I was seeing on a lot of other YouTube channels and other people's success where people were dropping 7 to 10 pounds, in a week. Some people were dropping 30 pounds a month on alternate day fasting. I was like, why is this not working for me? Why am I not able to drop as much weight as they were? And so I stepped it up a little bit and I started doing like 2 days and then I would eat for 4 days. So I would fast for up to 72 hours, which is almost 3 days. That is 3 days. And then I would eat for 4 days after that. And at that point, I started experiencing a pretty significant amount of weight loss, but I was doing primarily water fasts. And the problem with a water fast is if you don't have enough nutrients and you don't eat enough vegetables and you don't keep yourself very high on nutrition, you can get into some issues where you start feeling really bad. You start getting some negative side effects from lack of nutrition. And that's what happened to me. And I started completely failing and I could barely, sustain. I had horrible issues and it just wasn't good. So I had to stop that. And I decided, I'm not going to fast again. That was too extreme. I can't do it. And so I jumped back into keto and I did that through the rest of 2018 and into about the first half of 2019, honestly. It was about June of this year, 2019, that I decided to try alternate day fasting again because I want to bump up my weight loss. But this time I went at it from a completely different approach. This time I decided I'm not going to do water fast because that was a little bit extreme. What I do with my alternate day fasting today is I make sure that I take all of my supplements and all of my vitamins and all of that kind of stuff every single day. I take those every single day now when I'm fasting, especially when I'm fasting, to keep myself at a high level of nutrition and to allow my body to be able to work out and do other forms of exercise on fasting days. But what I also do is I allow myself to drink tea, black coffee, no sugar, no calorie intake at all when I fast. Those days I try to do 36 hours where I don't have any calorie intake. And then after that point, I will let myself to eat for one day. But basically, the schedule that I've adapted to is I do not eat on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And then I eat Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, and Sunday. And I've found that is working pretty good. I've been doing that almost 2 months now, and I've been able to, have really good weight loss experience. Like I've lost 20 pounds in the last 2 months just doing alternate day fasting and occasional keto. But I do switch back and forth between carbohydrates and keto depending on the week and what's going on. I found that keto can be very restrictive, and depending on who you're around, it can put a lot of people off. But so can fasting, because when I'm fasting, I don't eat anything. So if people want to go out to lunch or do something for dinner, I just oftentimes end up sitting there and maybe I'll have, an iced tea or something like that while they eat. And they oftentimes will feel negative about that. But I mean, it's a struggle. I mean, they don't have as much weight to lose and I have to lose weight. So it's something that I have to keep up with and do. But basically with alternate day fasting, I do Monday, Wednesday, Friday, no food, but I do take vitamins, I do drink black coffee, I do drink iced tea and black tea. No sugar, no calorie intake, nothing like that. And then when I eat, I try to eat very high amounts of vegetables and moderate amount of protein, low fat and low carb. And I definitely make sure to hit just over my daily caloric intake. So what I mean by that is I try to shoot for 2,500 to 3,000 calories on those days. So if I do need to get my calories up, I will add in more fat. So low to moderate levels of fat still. I try to keep the carbs as low as I can within reason. And obviously the big secret with insulin is to not eat both fat and carbs at the same time. That will end up causing weight gain because you'll spike your insulin, which will prevent you from using your calories that you just ate, and it'll turn that into fat, and then that won't work. So I try to stay away from high fat and high carb at the same time. But that's basically what I've been doing now for a little over a year, and so far I'm 68 pounds down, and I'm still going. I've been averaging between 2 and 3 pounds a week, which honestly, that's a very good sustainable weight loss amount. I wouldn't recommend you go much above that, as you can start getting into some issues where you lose weight too fast and you can harm your liver. But yeah. I do want to throw a disclaimer out. If you're thinking about trying fasting, if you're thinking about trying keto, I recommend that you would talk to a nutritional expert before you begin that process, just so that they can help you understand what your body needs to sustain and to survive, so that you don't make the mistakes of, like I did, where you end up burning yourself out and not able to sustain it, because that's a very defeating and hard to deal with setback. But that's basically, those are the two dietary weight loss strategies that I've been using over the last year and a half, and they've been quite successful for me so far. Next, I would like to talk about how I use both keto and intermittent fasting together. So what I like to do is eat low carb, low to moderate fat, high vegetables, and a moderate amount of protein. And that will vary depending on if it's a workout day or if it's not. And I'll touch base on exercise and workouts in another episode, because I just started getting into exercise. Up until this point, I stayed away from exercise because I was too heavy and I would injure myself every single time I tried, and it just didn't work out for me so well. But I'm finally getting to the point where I'm thin enough that I can exercise, and that is going to take the techniques that I'm doing already, and it's going to boost it even further to allow me to have even more noticeable weight loss, as well as build some muscle, increase my metabolism, etc. Yeah, so thank you all very much for watching through to this point. I'd like to take this time right now to point out that I'm going to be starting a kind of a series that goes about, it talks about how to manage some of the mental things that come along with trying to do keto and alternate day fasting. So what I mean by that is, the first episode I'm going to talk a little bit about, which I should be getting out sometime the end of this week or the beginning of next. I would like to talk about specifically what to do in situations when your friends, family members want to go out and eat, but you're on a fasting day or you don't want to eat carbs, and how to manage that, how to get enough mental fortitude, willpower to say, no, I'm not going to eat, I'm going to stick to my diet, and kind of some tips and tricks that I have that will also make your family members not feel like they're eating in front of you, or that that they themselves aren't living a healthy lifestyle. I don't want to make anyone feel like they're not doing something that they love doing, or that they can't eat, or that they shouldn't do this or that or the other thing, because this is my lifestyle, this is my choice, and I don't want to put that on the people around me in my vicinity, unless they want to hear about it, unless they want to learn and join on the journey and lose weight themselves. Then I'll share all that with them. But yeah, well, I'd like to thank everybody for watching, and leave a comment if you'd like to, if there's any questions you'd have regarding a future video, or any content you would like me to make more video content about, please let me know. And thank you very much for watching. Have a great day.